Hey guys, first things first, I know it's 10 days into the new decade, but I wanna wish you guys a happy new year. We kinda started the year late on the channel, but hey, better late than never, am I right? However, there was a reason as to why it has been a little while since we talked the builds around these parts, so I'm gonna keep it simple. I wanted to get creative with two characters and in the end they were pretty terrible. So instead of posting some rambles on why they were pretty bad, I decided to get good and approach the one skill that carried me through Synthesis League. And boy, do I freaking love Bane. Today's content is a build guide for my Bane Trickster. Surprisingly, it ended up being super simple, which hopefully helps you guys get a character going that can do a lot of the content with this, and while it isn't precisely dirt cheap, he is capable enough to help you amass some currency while playing him, or reinvest it into the character and make it a monster, your choice. As always, if you end up enjoying the content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Pinky promise the next video doesn't take a while, alright? Anyways, let's talk about breaking the bat. Cyrus. Something. Let's talk about Bane. So the concept for the guy, we're gonna be playing Bane as a trickster, but we're gonna be using Cane of Unraveling as our weapon of choice and 6th link of choice. We're using the Cane because it's dirty cheap for a 6th link and because it provides very nice bonuses for chaos damage over time spells. Besides that, the character is pretty freaking good for dealing with the majority of content. I say majority because there are a couple of map mods that really ruin our day, but besides that I wanna say that mostly everything is doable, which is why I chose to showcase the build. Also, I am using Divination Distillate in most of these clips. That shit barely does anything and you're better off with a second life flask or another utility flask. It's better that you ignore the Divination Distillate completely. So with that out of the way, let's see the skill tree and then we're gonna talk about the gear. Alrighty then, our first and most important piece of gear is our weapon and we are using Cane of Unraveling. However, there's a caveat. While the 6th link version is stupid cheap, we need 4 blue and 2 green sockets. Because of that, you could spam crumbs until it happens, but that may take forever, as was my case. So I recommend that you place Vorici on research, have him rank up and then craft white sockets hoping that the red sockets fuck off. Anyways, we use the Cane of Unraveling because it comes with the crispy +2 levels of all chaos spell skill gems. This not only helps our boy Bane, but it also buffs Despair, Malevolence, Wither and Blight gems. Besides that, it provides very useful bonuses to chaos damage over time. It also generates power charges and gives us mana regen per power charge. It truly is the best in a slot for our setup. It can be beaten, but the contender option is pretty much a path of building dream and not realistic at all. The next piece of gear we require to be on point is the amulet. We need +1 level of all intelligence skill gems. Mandatory mod because it gives us a fuck ton of damage and buffs almost all the spells we use. Besides that level to all gems, we also want chaos damage over time and life. You can use spell damage or chaos damage prefixes instead of the DOT, but since I had my resistances covered already by everything else, I crafted that chaos damage and also anointed Disciple of the Slaughter. The next thing on the list are the rings, and we want plenty of life, resistances and chaos resistance if possible. Strength and mana are also nice things to get here if you can, but you need an open suffix on both rings because you're gonna be crafting minimum frenzy charges on them. For the hand grabbers, we want fingerless silk gloves with either Hunter or Elder influence because we absolutely need chaos damage over time multiplier on them. Besides that, you want life and resists on them as well. You don't need to craft the pair like I did, but that is also an option if you want more control on what rolls on the item. On the leg and casings, I opted for 2-tone boots, and I recommend that you do the same to maximize the resists. We want movement speed, life, more resists, and if you can get it, strength. For enchantments, you can use movement speed if you haven't been hit recently, or mana regen if you've casted a spell recently. To hold our pants in place, we use a Stygian Vise with life, resists, and increased chaos damage. This comes from aberrant fossils, which means you can either attempt to craft it or trade for one with the mods. You can also try to get the strength in this place. The Abyss Jewel on the belt needs life, damage over time while holding a two-handed weapon, and either resists or strength. Next comes the helmet, and we want life and resists. We need the Despair Curse effect as the enchantment because that gives us the most DPS. If you can't find one with the Despair enchant, go with Bane damage. You can also try to get chaos resistance and strength in this slot. Lastly, for the gear comes the chest piece, and this one is up to you. I am using a Cherubim's Maleficence for the chaos damage. If you don't wanna use it, you can go for a chest with plenty of life, strength and resists. You may wanna bring up Carcass Jack as an option, but the area damage mod on that one does absolutely nothing for the build, which is why I opted for Cherubims instead. Plus, Cherubims has more life, and goodness gracious, we want that. As for the flasks, we want a sulfur for damage and quartz for dodge and phasing. For the jewels, you need increased life, chaos damage over time multiplier, and either resists, spell damage, damage over time, or spell damage while wielding a staff. Moving on to the skills, on the staff we are gonna be using Bane linked to Awakened Void Manipulation, Awakened Swift Affliction, Efficacy, Despair, and Temporal Chains. I advise going for a 21-20 Bane in this setup first, as that gives you the most DPS. The Awakened gems we are using are not that expensive, but if you can't get them outright, you can use Control Destruction instead of Awakened Void Manipulation and a regular Swift Affliction. Next comes the auras, and for that we use Malevolence, Skitterbots, a low level Clarity, and we link them to an Enlighten level 3. We use the Skitterbots because one of them guarantees shocks, and since the other option for DPS is Elotry, I'd rather use the Skitterbots. Try to get a level 21 Malevolence as well. We also use Wither on a multiple spell totem setup. At the same time we also want a Valve Light and Valve Righteous Fire linked to increased duration. We also want a Flame Golem, Wither Step, and Flame Dash linked to Arcane Surge. This is how we get Arcane Surge, and you mostly use it for bosses or thick rares who refuse to fall down immediately. Also an Enduring Cry, free endurance charges as long as you don't forget to cast it. Alright, now we talk about the character. First, the nostalgia factor. Vayne was the skill that pretty much carried me through Synthesis. Thanks to it I got a good chunk of currency that I blew making terrible characters. That doesn't sound too positive, but the point is that Bane was pretty strong back then and it didn't need a lot of investment. Hell, even with less than 500,000 Bane DPS you could clear all content in the game. You can't do that now, as the skill got nerfed right after Synthesis, and in today's meta you need the damage to be substantial to get away with using Bane as our only source of DPS. However, thanks to the mechanics of the skill, the playstyle is pretty chill as we cast it on an enemy and run laps around it non-stop. This is because unlike Caustic Arrow, Bane is applied directly on top of enemies and we don't need them to stand still on a pool of acid. While the skill lasts a bit on mobs, we still need to recast it here and there, but that shouldn't be much of an issue. At the same time, we're gonna be playing a Trickster because we're trying to maximize the positives around the coin toss we are calling our defenses. With plenty of dodge, elusive, and a quart flask, we can zoom around without getting smashed, but remember that there's gonna be a moment in which your luck is going to run out, and when that happens we do get chunked hard, so keep that in mind. There's other ways to play with Vayne, mind you. The best way should be to use a chest with Arcane Surge intrinsically, where we socket the skill setup. You'd also need a wand or dagger with +1 level to chaos or all spell gems, chaos damage over time and spell damage as the weapon, and a spiked shield with life, resists, and spell damage or gem levels. You'd need to change some jewels and nodes in the tree, but it could be doable. Your DPS could greatly improve and your defenses will also improve, but that requires more investment and that is up to you in the end. Anyways, that's it for the video. I'm gonna leave you with the rest of this Cyrus skill. I wanna thank everyone who has been subbing to the channel, as we are growing steadily and I can't wait for the channel to get fatter with subs. So with that being said, thanks for watching, remember to sub if you haven't, rate and comment, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.